The Cincinnati Reds rolled into Tampa and won their fourth game in a row. What might have been the most complete win of the season.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Jeff Carr, he's Steve Offenbaker, and on today's Locked On Reds podcast, we are going to discuss the Reds' ABS challenge system philosophy and why there are some flaws that the Reds really need to revisit. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. In just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you why this Reds lineup is poised for a breakout. We saw a little bit of it on Sunday, but there's a key statistic that is pointing to that breakout. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But we will begin with the win that the Reds had on Monday night. A very, very complete win, Steve, because it wasn't just pitching. It wasn't just the starting pitching or the relief pitching. It wasn't just the fielding. It wasn't just the hitting. It wasn't just the base running. It was all of it. We saw all of it come together for the Reds, and they truly outclassed the Tampa Bay Rays.
Do you want to know, Jeff Carr, just how complete of a win this win was for the Cincinnati Reds? I'm gonna tell you. Bryan Hayes has a hit in this game. That tells you everything you need to know. No, look, all joking aside.
Now, never mind the fact that we can count the number of feet that traveled on two hands, but yeah.
No, it's a hit. It's a hit, sir, and you get out of here with your negative Bryan Hayes energy. I will not tolerate it. And the comment section
later.
The comment section clearly will not tolerate any negative Bryan Hayes energy. But look, Rhett Lowder got off to a rough start. The Reds offense did not get off to a rough start. The bullpen did the thing that the bullpen's been doing all year. Rhett Lowder settled down, and they put together one of those wins where it was pretty apparent pretty early the Reds were going to win this game. It was pretty apparent pretty early that everything was on cruise control. The Reds just needed to coast to the finish line. I love these kind of games. We talk about often, Jeff, 60 wins, 60 losses. What you do with the other 42 is what matters. This was 100% one of those games that was in the 60 wins. The Reds were winning this baseball game. But I love how everybody just kind of delivered. Rhett Lowder, as I said, kind of got roughed up. The first inning was not pretty, but at the end of the day, you look at his line score, 6 innings pitched. He allowed 5 hits, just 1 earned run, struck out 3, walked 2. Nothing to sneeze at. Great number 4, number 5 guy in your rotation. Perfect. Great line. The bullpen in this game, Jeff, comes in and wraps it up. Burke spins a perfect inning in his work, strikes out 2 guys. Pierce Johnson comes in, another great, and he walks a dude, but allows no hits, no runs. And then Connor Phillips comes in for the final inning of work. You know, he does walk a couple guys because it's Connor Phillips, and that is apparently just how things work around here. Connor Phillips comes in, walks a couple guys, does allow a hit, but nobody scored. No damage was done. Everything was cool. The Reds win this game. It was just one of those games that when you look at it from the beginning, hindsight is 20/20, but you take everything into account and you're like, the Reds were going to win this game.
And I think too, like, the key with laying out the pitching performances and kind of how that all coalesced is that it wasn't just that. Like, there were some great plays. The layout diving stop on the hard hit ball by Junior Caminero that Elly De La Cruz had over in the hole in shortstop, stabs it, jumps up, throws him out by a step. Looked like peak shortstop defense. But there were also multiple easy plays that Elly made just as fluidly. There were some great plays by Matt McLain, great plays by Sal Stewart. He had an over-the-shoulder basket catch late in this ball game that it was kind of like, wow, why on earth would the first baseman be out there anyway? But that's because he's Sal Stewart. He's different. The fielding was all over the place in this one. The hitting was all over the place in this one in a good way. And I say all over the place, I mean that in a good way. When it comes to all aspects of this team, because there was even that moment where Junior Caminero on the fielding side of things, forgot where he was, and instead of tapping third base and throwing to first for a surefire double play, that then put runners on second and third with 2 outs, and Rhys Hines delivered a dagger of a double to score 2 runs. And then you had just the awesome play of Sal Stewart, where he began the game with a 2-run homer in the top of the first. He then later doubled, stole third, and scored on a wild pitch. He's doing everything for this lineup, but it wasn't as if it had to be all Sal. It wasn't as if it had to be all one aspect of this team. It was all working in unison, and dare I say, that's the kind of game that they've got to have when you're looking down the line, because we didn't see too many of those games last year, Steve. The outclassing that they did to the Rays was few and far between in 2025. The fact that we're seeing it this early is such a good sign.
It was. Look, I can't predict whether or not this is going to last, but it's a lot of fun right now. This Cincinnati Reds team is a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to follow. And, you know, I wasn't on your show yesterday. I was a little bit tied up, and the schedules didn't work out. So you and I couldn't do this together. So you had to do a solo. But, you know, had I been on that show, I would have been like, look, the Reds did not deserve to sweep that series against the Minnesota Twins. And yet here we are. We have arrived at a place where they did it in spite of what everything was saying should happen. None of that happened. The Reds pulled off the sweep, and that momentum now has continued forward. And that, for me, was probably the biggest missing piece over the last couple years. The Reds would go out and they would sweep a big series. They would have a huge series against a team that maybe they shouldn't have won. Maybe they shouldn't have swept. Maybe they shouldn't have competed against. And then the White Sox would come into town and they would get swept and they would just lose. All of that momentum. That's the difference right now, Jeff. If you want to point at a difference as to what is different about the 2026 Reds versus the couple versions of the Reds that have come before, it's that. It's that thing right there where they continue to carry that momentum forward. Because in years past, they would not have done that. They would have found a way to go into Tampa and lose the first game of the series and undo all of the momentum you built by coming from behind in multiple games in Minnesota. They didn't do that. They went into Tampa. They performed well in both a starting pitcher, a bullpen, and an offensive lineup perspective, and they went out and they won a game. I don't know how to act, but I'm loving every single minute of it because this team is fun to watch right now.
Well, and in the grand scheme of things, too, like the Twins had a hot start, but they're not supposed to be good. The Reds took care of business. The Rays, they've had a nice start, and as much as it's really tough to predict what the Tampa Bay Rays are, if you ask anybody that did their preseason prognostications, nobody's really thinking about the Tampa Bay Rays. So if the Reds are going to be considered a real team, they got to go in, they got to beat teams like this. And I get it. They've got some talent in their lineup, and Junior Caminero and Jonathan Aranda and guys like that. And they've got some interesting pitchers on their staff and all this other stuff. But the Reds, if they are who we think they can be, need to go in and outclass teams like this. This wasn't a 1-run victory. This wasn't a 2-run victory. We don't put that in that category where we've been talking about them being undefeated in those games. This is a different thing. They're now 9-2 on the road. And as that number was floated around the Reds sphere Monday night, that's the best road record that they've had to start a season since 1990. And when you start evoking years like 1990, that's when things start getting a whole lot of fun. But of course, with all these fun numbers that are floating around, there's also some concerning numbers because there's a lot of folks that are talking about the fact that the Reds lineup is last in a lot of categories. But there is one of those numbers, Steve, that sticks out to me the most and tells me that a breakout, it's a coming.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inboxes overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your posts. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute that I'm going to be talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed's data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show are going to get $75 in sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked On Reds by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thank you so much for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network in all the land. We could not have done that without you. We appreciate you so much. You already live this team every single day. Elevate that game. Become a part of the Everydayer Club. You're going to get ad-free Locked On Reds over on the audio side, uninterrupted. Locked On Reds at lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. $5 a month, $50 a year. You get the ad-free Locked On Reds in the audio feed, and you get exclusive access to the Discord server for not only Locked On Reds, where Jeff and I and Tim Daniel are all talking ball in there, but every single host, every single show, the entire Locked On podcast network. You get all of that. So check it out. The link for that is down in the show description. Check it out today. All right, Jeff, let's kind of continue this conversation because it was a really complete win. It felt like one of those games the Reds were just simply going to win, even after Rhett Lowder walks in a run. You know, us as Reds fans, as fans of Cincinnati sports in general, really, this is really a weird week for us because the Reds are sweeping series, they're winning games. The Bengals are trading #1 picks for Sexy Dexy. Like it is a weird week for all of us. But I know how everyone reacts. Rhett Lowder walks that run in and everybody's like, here we go. This is it. This is what they do here. This is it. But they didn't do that. They rallied around. They got it done. They win the game. Something we're not used to all the time. Complete game, complete win, starting pitchers, bullpen, lineup. The lineup is finally showing signs that some of these guys are beginning to approach the point of breakout. Not everybody, but a few of these guys are really seemingly poised to turn a corner.
Yeah, because to begin this season, Steve, no lineup in baseball has a worse batting average on balls in play. And I know somebody probably has a bingo card that they're filling out. All right, Jeff said the BABIP thing, and yep, here we go. But
that's Austin. Austin Elmore is the guy with the bingo card.
Yeah, Cincy 360 on ESPN 1530. Yeah, they're marking that down. But no other team in Major League Baseball has it worse. And I don't know what the updated numbers are specifically, but I can't imagine that they really jumped up that list after one day. So at best, maybe they climbed out of the cellar in their second worst. But it's because there's so many different guys that are getting so unlucky. A lot of hard hits that are finding gloves, a lot of good contact that is just turning into an out. And we're seeing that a lot throughout the lineup. In fact, surprisingly, at least going into Monday night's game, after a 2-for-4 day, probably got a little bit better for him. But even Sal Stewart had a less than league average batting average on balls in play. So the league average mark right now, Steve, is at 288. The Reds as a team are at 250. There's guys on this roster that are getting regular at bats that are in the 100s. And of course, we talked about the Key Bryan Hayes of it all. Save it. We're not going to get Key Bryan Hayes just yet. But Matt McLain, TJ Friedel, Tyler Stevenson, they're all at least 50 points below this league mark. And we're starting to see it a little bit after Monday night's game. This lineup has been hitting. It's just not been finding grass. They started to find grass. They were scoring runs in multiple innings. They got 6 runs legitimately. They weren't like handed to them. It was a good game for this lineup. I think that they will continue to build off of that, and we will see this lineup. Is it going to be a top 10 lineup in the majors? No. But is it going to be a top 15 lineup in the majors? Yes. And that's all they need to support this pitching staff that is absolutely fantastic and get them to where they want to go.
we're going to talk about Bryan Hayes. I know you don't want to, and we're going to talk about him in a way that maybe necessarily you don't anticipate. Because I will say this, I read the comment section, Jeff, and I know you do too. And we don't respond to every single comment because there's just way too many, but we try to engage. And I have seen everybody coming at me talking about, I have an axe to grind against Bryan Hayes. And why am I not picking on everybody else? And why am I only focused on Bryan Hayes? And clearly maybe I must have bet money on him and I'm losing that money. And that's why I'm so upset. And those hits just go on and on and on and on. Here's the thing.
You did turn heel on him, though. I mean, we got a nice T-shirt made over at Cincy Shirts for the guy.
I want to tell you.
Now all of a sudden you don't like him.
I hope beyond all hope that hit in last night's game is one of those hits that sparks a rally. Hitters that have played in the majors will tell you this all the time. Sometimes you just need that first one to finally break through. I hope that's what this is for Bryan Hayes. He went 1 for 4 with a strikeout, raising his batting average to a blustery 0.71. Many have questioned, well, why aren't you attacking Matt McLain? Why aren't you going after Tyler Stevenson? Why are you so focused on Bryan Hayes? Well, right now, Matt McLain is hitting 100 points higher, as bad as he has been, 100 points higher than Bryan Hayes.
Getting on
Tyler
base
Stevenson,
well too. Yeah.
Tyler Stevenson, 100 points higher than Bryan Hayes. But here's the thing. Here's what matters the most to me. I want him to figure it out. I want him to have success. I want to be wrong. I want Bryan Hayes to figure it out. The problem is, Jeff, that he hasn't. And I have said to you multiple times on multiple shows, tell me what it is you're looking for. How long do we wait? What is the metric that you are using for us to all look at and say, okay, fine, we're going to sit back and we're going to let Bryan Hayes have time and to figure it out because of this thing, whatever it is that we're looking at right now. Again, 071, an OPS of 204. So I ask you, how much longer do we wait for Bryan Hayes? How much longer do we give him? What is the thing that we are looking for to say, there it is, finally, we can back off of Bryan Hayes and focus on other things? Because I don't want to be right about this, but I feel like I'm right about this, that is a time for a change.
I think it's got to be into May because he still is showing, on top of the crazy low batting average on balls in play that he has, and it's now down below 70, 0.07. It's like 0.064. But on top of that, he has still shown solid, albeit not stellar, but solid average exit velocity over 90 miles an hour on average. And he is still doing pretty well with the plate discipline, albeit one of his strikeouts today was kind of rough. He was getting fooled on a two-seamer kind of really badly. But his swing and miss rate has been pretty good. His strikeout rate has been elite. So I think if we can see the walk rate tick up, and if we can see those hits start to fall, and look, I'm not saying he's got to slug 400. Just give me some singles. That's all we need to see from him. And just keep this lineup turning over. But I'm with you. I think that we are reaching the boiling point on this thing. But I'd say give him the May. Give him the May because the glove is just that good.
That's fair. We talk about sample size all the time around here. So if you're telling me, so what, May 1st, if we reach May 1st, just as an example, Jeff, if we reach May 1st and he's still somewhere in the neighborhood of 071, 133, 071, for a slash line, is it time then? Is it time to make a change?
Which then it would be, and the change would be that you would move him to the bench and then you would move somebody to third and then he's your defensive replacement later on in the game, as opposed to being the guy that has to be pinch hit for.
Right, because we're not sending him down. And that's not what I'm saying. I don't think that's what you're saying. Nobody's saying.
I don't think you can anyway.
We're not, even if you could, we're not trying to send him down. But obviously there is a way to construct this lineup to get better results. And I have sat back. I have taken my beating, and you and I have in the group chat with Tim Daniel, I keep saying this is the hill I'm going to die on, because if this is who Bryan Hayes is, they're using him incorrectly. He should be a defensive replacement. So I will continue to ride on that hill, but I think I can acquiesce. I think I can concede that May 1st sounds like a fair deadline to give him just a little bit more time to figure it out, because I really, truly hope that this is one of those dinker dunker infield dribblers of a hit that he got in last night's game that kind of gets the thing going, Jeff. And we've seen that time and time again, that's a thing that plays out in Major League Baseball. So I truly hope this is the beginning of Bryan Hayes putting it together and getting back to being even just like a 215, 220 guy as far as batting average goes. That's all I'm asking for. If he gives me 215, 220, I am going to zip it up and we'll move on to other people that aren't performing. But right now, he is the weakest link, and I need better from Bryan Hayes.
And there's one other guy, because this wasn't meant to be just specifically Bryan Hayes, but looking at the rest of the lineup, like one other guy to really circle, because people are starting to try to key in on him and say, let's get rid of him and get somebody else at second base, is Matt McLain. Matt McLain shows the perfect telltale signs of a breakout. His batting average on balls in play is 20 points lower than where the league mark is right now, and his on-base percentage is uncannily higher than his batting average. His on-base percentage, he's still getting on base a third of the time, even though he's batting $180. And so with that kind of a difference in on-base percentage and batting average, I expect we're going to start to see some hits fall. He hit a double on Monday night. I expect that we continue to see more of that from him, and then his value we'll start to see that breakout that we said that Matt McLain is going to do. But the whole lineup is poised for something like this to go down. We're going to start seeing that run scoring in bunches here very soon.
Yeah, you finally have seen a hit from Bryan Hayes. You're right, absolutely right about Matt McLain. TJ Friedl looks like he might be able to turn a corner,
turn around too.
And especially if they really do move him into a more of a true platoon situation with Dane Myers. You start to go down this list, Jeff, and it's there. You start to see it. You see it with Friedl. You see it with Spencer Steer. His batting average is hovering around 211 right now. Those hits are going to come. Tyler Stevenson is not a 170 hitter. Rhys Hines, interestingly enough, is finally starting to put things together. 2 for 4. 1 for 4 with 2 RBI in last night's game. The batting average is not coming along. It's all the pieces aren't there.
He's not a batting average guy. He's an extra base hit.
Not. That's who he is. Start to see him go to that outside corner and get the bat on the ball, and you start to see him to go out there. And as you see him go out there, he starts to figure it out a little bit more. I think there's lots of pieces to look at right now. And that's why I'm saying I'm willing to listen to you, Jeff, and say, okay, fine. I will acquiesce. I will back it up just a little bit and wait for Bryan Hayes, because I'm also willing to wait for these other guys, because everybody is just kind of starting to show signs of turning a corner. And if this is what the Reds can do while they're struggling, I cannot wait to see what this lineup does when all systems are go and all cylinders are firing. This is going to be a fun team to watch.
100%. And it's going to support this pitching staff just so well. But you mentioned waiting. That's what the Reds love to do with the ABS challenges that they got in their pockets. And I think they need to reassess that strategy. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find the perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why Confetti Craze 5-Hour Energy Shots bring that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. This is that classic taste that you remember, but with that tasty caffeine boost and zero sugar. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. I've always loved birthday cake, but I can't be eating a piece of birthday cake every single day. You know, they always say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, I'm pretty sure a piece of cake a day keeps you in the doctor like all the time. Confetti Craze 5-Hour Energy Shots taste just like birthday cake. Got that vanilla and the buttery flavors that you all love, but it lets you be unapologetically extra and unstoppably energized. It's become my go-to when I want something sweet without going overboard. The Funfetti flavor is back on 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Crack open Confetti Craze 5-Hour Energy Shot today. I encourage you to keep the conversation going with us after the show is over. You can follow us on social media. You can follow me at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs over on X and TikTok. You can follow Steve on X at S Offenbaker with 2 Fs. And you can follow the show at Locked On Reds. That's on literally every social media platform out there. All right, Steve, when it comes to early season trends and the lineup's ready to break out and we've seen some good stuff from the bullpen and all this other stuff, the brand new ABS challenge system, we've seen those trends. And what the Reds like to do, it seems as though they think they can carry them over. I don't know if they believe that there's some kind of reward system for having 2 challenges at the end of a ball game. They feel like they're waiting too long. The perfect example of this was on Sunday, and with Hunter Wendelstedt behind the plate in Minnesota, absolutely horrible strike zone.
Horrible.
And I should have gotten like
it was
the screen
Angel
grab
Hernandez-esque.
Oh, it was bad. But I think that part of that was aided by the fact that the Reds did not challenge early on. And there were some key balls that were called strikes that the Reds should have challenged, and they didn't. And you could tell in a couple of key moments, especially there was one specifically with a runner on second base and Spencer Steer was called out on strikes, that it kind of felt like he was like reaching up to tap his helmet, and then he kind of like and then walked back to the dugout.
He actually grabbed the bill. He grabbed the bill of his hat. Like the hand went that high. Yeah.
Like hovered down and then grabbed the bill and then walked back to the dugout. And it just feels as though this is something from the top. This is something from the Tito chair right now, where they're not challenging early on because they feel as though it's better to challenge late. And I feel like they've got to reassess that.
Now, I want to be fair to Tito. I feel like he's done overall, if we're going to talk about it overall, big picture, he's done a good job of managing how they're going to use these challenges. We've seen all the way back to the first series of the season. We've seen the Red Sox use challenges on the first at bat. We've seen them use things where you get into the 5th or 6th inning and they're already out of challenges. That's a problem. So Tito has tried to put a structure in place where the Reds are going to be committed to having challenges remaining later in the game, the 6th inning, 7th, 8th, 9th. They're going to have challenges. I think, though, what we've seen is a place where they have overshot the mark just a little bit. It's time to loosen that up some and say, if you are certain that you're right, go ahead and use, if we have 2 challenges, go ahead, use that challenge. If we only have 1 challenge remaining, you cannot challenge until the 8th inning. I could see him putting rules like that in place. But right now, everybody seems to like have that reach to their head, that reach to their helmet, that arm upward movement, and then they pull it back because you're right. That's coming from Tito. Tito has decided he, by God, wants challenges late in the game. And I get it.
Voice in their head telling them
it is a tremendous strategy, and it has paid off at times for the Reds. But you and I were talking in prep, and you were like, "Yeah, but they get an extra challenge in extra innings, so don't save it." And you're right. There is a fine line. There is a balance, and I think that Tito needs to give a little bit more of a green light while the Reds have 2 challenges, and then rein it in if they lose that first challenge. But they need to be a little bit more aggressive than they have been and hold these umpires accountable. Because you're right. If they had gone after Wendelstedt early, it probably changes that strike zone for the rest of the game once he realized, well, okay, they're not messing around and I don't want to get embarrassed. So let's tighten it up a little bit. So I could see that working.
Yeah, because Bailey Ober was getting the outside edge against right-handed hitters to the point that like he was landing pitches that looked like they were 2 or 3 inches off the edge of the strike zone, and Hunter Wendelstedt was, doing his little strike call thing. And it just felt like the Reds needed to change that with a couple of challenges, and they decided not to. And I understand. If it's early in the ball game, nobody's on base, Bryan Hayes is up the bat, he probably shouldn't be using challenges. But these were situations where I remember specifically Eugenio Suarez was up the bat, and there was a guy on first base, and then Spencer Steer was up the bat, and there was a guy on second base. And they just let it happen. And they should have challenged. And there were situations like that. So I really want the Reds to be more aggressive earlier on in the ball games, especially when guys are on base, with making sure that they get that right, because we've seen the momentum change. Like there's been multiple chances now where a guy has either gotten a walk and changed it into a strikeout if they're a catcher, or gotten a strikeout and changed it into a walk if they're a hitter, or even take a 2-strike count and turn it into a 3-ball count. And then you mess with the pitcher with those. There's so much momentum that is to be gained through a successful challenge that I think that the worry about a failed challenge should be either equal with the value that you should get off of a successful challenge, or at least like maybe even a little bit more. Like the weight feels off to me. It feels as though they're far more worried about failed challenges than they are happy about the benefits from a successful challenge, if that makes sense.
It does, but I will say this as we wrap this up, Jeff. I am happy with how the Reds are handling things compared to what I've seen from a lot of other teams. A lot of other teams seemingly have not put very much in the way of training wheels in place for how challenges are going to be used, and they're out of challenges early and often. And I like that the Reds are trying to find a way to set some guidelines for their players in order to how to use these challenges. So I think it needs some refinement. I think that we're on to something here, but I do like the way that Tito's mind is working when it comes to the challenges and how the Reds are using them.
100% agree. And to your point, the Rays lost a challenge in the first inning, and I don't remember them having another challenge the rest of the game. It was almost as if they got gun shy. They got back into the dugout, and the guy's like, "Why'd you challenge?" You're like, "All right, no more challenges."
Yep. All right, Jeff, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks, everyone, for making us your first listen each and every day. For the audio folks, go jump over to the Locked On MLB feed. There's so many shows over there. Listen, there are 3, I think now, shows cooking over in the Locked On MLB feed. Sully's got you covered with Major League Baseball from a national perspective. Former Reds reliever Mike Stanton's got you covered with Major League Baseball from a former player's perspective in that feed as well. And then you've got the folks over at Locked On MLB Game Night who are watching every single game, every single night, and telling you what's going on, so you don't have to watch 12 hours of baseball unless you just really want to. I do, Jeff does, but some people don't have that kind of time. Go check that out next. For the video folks, stick around. We're going to send you over to Locked On's first ever 24/7 national YouTube channel, where all of the experts of the Locked On Network are talking ball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Lots of ball getting talked over there. Something for everybody on that 24/7 YouTube feed. Jeff and I will be back in your feed tomorrow with all of the news, the notes, the rumors, the reports, and the information to keep you locked on Reds every single day. All right, Jeff, hear me out. If we do a shot of 5-hour energy every time you say BABIP, what would the end of the show look like?
I think it would take like 25 seconds.
A lot of fast talking, buddy.